one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the pets. Excuse me, I'm speaking. Welcome into the Creed of Crypto live stream. My name is Broke Boy Crypto, and I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. Yes, we are going to be talking about it's the last gasp, because next week it is finally happening. The U.S. election, kind of some of our final thoughts on what we think is going to transpire there. Of course, there's a lot of angles to look at that in terms of crypto, so we're going to be doing that as well. Tomorrow is a big day, obviously, for the ecosystem that we care a whole bunch about. Pulse Chain, the corrupt SEC's lawsuit against Richard Hart that Richard and his 11 attorneys are looking to get dismissed. It is the motion to dismiss hearing officially taking place tomorrow on Halloween. We already saw Nuclear Herbs is in the house. He is already in the city. So I saw some comments on his tweet earlier. A lot of other people saying they're going to be checking in tomorrow too. So it's going to be very, very interesting couple of days here in not only this ecosystem, but just macroeconomics, everything going on. Just really, really exciting times here. Get your popcorn ready. I mean, this quarter, quarter four of 2024 is going to be insane. A lot of fun stuff going on. We do have a poll question in there for you, and I wanted to word it in a specific way because I had a feeling I knew how the results would be if I simply said, who do you want to win the election? Which, pretty obvious. So I said, not who do you want, but who do you think will win the U.S. election? And the results are pretty much the same as if I worded it the other way. I believe it's 93% in favor of former President Trump and Kamala with 7% right now. And I wanted to word it that way because it's like, we don't know what kind of shenanigans may or may not go on, but who do you think will win? So far, a lot of people in favor of Donald J. Trump. We're going to talk a lot about the election tonight. We'll get into the interview with Rogan, obviously, that Trump had, why Kamala won't be going there and stuff. There's a lot of cool things on the table. So many things going on. If you're in here, guys, do us a favor, hit the like. We do the show every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate you all being here to support Real DeFi. And Ewok, how are you on this fine Wednesday evening?
It is a fine Wednesday evening. I'm doing well. You can tell things are definitely heating up, by the look at the charts and all that good stuff. So that's exciting. We got the election coming up. Also exciting. Hopefully we can kind of get things back on track, which we think it should be back on track. Always worried about the shenanigans, which we talked about a little bit ago. But Adam Taliaferro, welcome.
Whoa, interesting. If that's I didn't really even notice that. I literally didn't notice it. I'm gonna guess it's not.
Well, maybe not, but either way. Welcome.
Very interesting.
It's a new name.
Adam, if you are the Penn State Adam Taliaferro, you let us know. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it's just things are getting exciting. So we got lots of things coming up toward the end of the year. Halloween is always, a lot of people are fans of that holiday and the trick-or-treaters and the costume parties and all that good stuff. So, got a lot to look forward to here in the next couple weeks. I'm very excited for tomorrow. I think we could set some precedent. Obviously we're not going to get a decision right away, but that will be exciting. As I said last week, for all these people to get together in the same place. And usually when that happens, bullish things follow, and we're kind of seeing it already on the Bitcoin and Ethereum charts, and hopefully it kind of transcends down to our little ecosystem here, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of the theme of the show tonight. Like, crypto's already started to pump. Will it continue to through the election here? And maybe even regardless of the result? We've talked about this for weeks. it's really just up to the time frame of BTC and how we are so accurately matching up to previous cycles at this point with the price action for Bitcoin and everything. So we'll get into that first. We do at the moment have Bitcoin. I mean, it's been teetering right at almost new all-time highs over the last couple of days. We're at 72.5K right now. It did touch 73, I believe, for a short period of time already. ETH is at 2660. It's still ratio-wise looking like crap, but it has risen up, of course, with BTC. It's tried to get out of that region a little bit, but, you know, we're continuing to play the waiting game with ETH. More importantly, I mean, we're both very confident that ETH is going to come around at some point. So I know we've really been beating that topic like a dead horse here over the last few weeks, but it's just going to take some time to shake out, I believe. But in terms of Bitcoin, and in other words, just this overall market here for the rest of the quarter, how bullish are you on this, Ewok? Because the chart is looking fantastic right now. The moves it's making are looking very strong. I know some people on this show right now, and also people watching, are not huge fans of Bob Lucas. I'm not even necessarily either, but I do appreciate what he has to say in terms of the Bitcoin 4-year cycles. He also has Bitcoin 60-day cycles that he looks at. And he's been calling November 5th to likely be like the 60-day cycle low for a while now, which just happens to be the day of the election also. And then thinks that things are going to get really bullish basically after that. And we're going to see up only basically for the rest of the year. So he was increasingly really, really bullish on it. So, yeah, I just think that regardless of the results of the election, I mean, maybe for a short period of time, we have a sell the news event, especially if Trump would win. I could see us selling off regardless of the result, to be honest with you, because Kamala winning would, you know, maybe just trigger some sells anyway because of people not liking that. But then in terms of Trump, just maybe a sell the news event, as we already have been pumping going into it. So what do you think about that? And, you know, as far as the smaller time frame, but really just the rest of this quarter, because I think it's going to be really good looking for BTC and crypto as a whole.
Well, if you notice here at the chart today, we got our first cross. The 50-day moving average crossed over the 200. And if you look back, the last time that happened was back here in November of 23, before we started this nice little run up to the original first 73,000, whatever it was that we hit. So that's kind of what ticked that whole thing off. And today we just got our cross again. So very excited, looking very bullish, and it is not even close to turning. You know what I mean? So this is looking very strong and pointed in a very strong upward direction. Now, obviously 3 or 4 days of red candles would turn that around, but you know, this usually doesn't cross over. You know, even here when things went on a little run, you know, you have a couple other little runs where it didn't cross, but today it actually did. So, you know, that's very exciting to see. You know, when you look at the Ethereum chart, and you pull up those ratios like we have been looking at, I do believe this candle here, this daily candle back on the 25th, was our low. And I'm hoping that that low sticks. I think that was the bottom for this ratio, and I do believe we continue to see this rise up now. So I'm making that call as the bottom. Hopefully it holds. But Ethereum is definitely looking strong. It's got some strength too. And now this hasn't crossed over as of yet. But we are seeing some strength. And usually when Bitcoin takes off, you know, the Ethereum chart is usually delayed by, I don't want to say a month, but in the past, when Bitcoin topped, usually the Ethereum top would follow that by about 28 days later. So, you know,
things great movie, by the way. Great zombie movie. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Things are delayed by, you know, a hair, but, you know, not too much. But if, you know, you can read into the cycles, now is definitely, you know, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive daily green candles, and they're all looking pretty strong. We've gone from 2386 here up to 2721 in just a few days. So all is looking well on this side of everything. You've got even the Dow isn't looking the greatest. which is okay because these are cooling off. I think these are cooling off in waiting for election things to kind of transpire. So that's what's surprising about this is maybe I think people are front running
Mhm.
the election in hopes of getting a little bit of ahead of what is to come. We shall see. But yeah, everything's looking good. I do believe our ratio bottom is in on the ETH Bitcoin chart. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of positive things.
Valiant Low Key says Trump pump 80K by election day. That would be very interesting. I would love to see that. And I agree with you, Ewok. Yeah, that was the bottom on the ETH BTC ratio. I am with you on that because we're seeing such bullish action as you just outlined from BTC right now that ETH is obviously going to rise with it. Now, could it, potentially go a little slower and that affect the ratio? Yeah. But I think now that they're actually rising again, I mean, since that, horrible weekend in early August, that's when ETH basically got slaughtered against BTC, and things have just been ranging since then with ETH going down further. Now, if we have a very, very clear upward trajectory, I think that ETH is bound to close the gap. And we're not going to be out of the woods for a long time. I mean, like that ratio is 0.036 right now. It was really hovering around 0.048, 0.05 or something like that back in early August before that death candle. So
Yeah.
we're about, even at that point, it's just like ho hum. It's not like we're in super bullish time frames yet. But I mean, yeah, I think that ETH is going to start to come up based on this move. So yeah,
Yep.
good
Yeah, it's
stuff.
looking strong. Looking strong. I'm hoping that was the bottom.
Yeah, I think so. That is BTC and ETH. Let's take a look at Pulse Chain right now. So we have seen Pulse come down rather aggressively here over the last couple of weeks, but a nice pump with the rest of the market over the last few days. We have Pulse at 4 zeros and a 4.9 right now. We have Pulse X at 4 zeros, 275. Incentive at $2 even. Hex is at 1.4 cents and eHex at 0.002, just a tad below that. But things have been moving up here over the last day again with the rest of crypto and everything. And people have been wondering, like, going into the big motion to dismiss hearing tomorrow, even though we're going to see some cool sites. We already know Nuclear Herbs is there. We saw him by the bull on Wall Street. We know that he's up there. We're going to see more and more stuff spill out, which I'm so excited for over the next 24 hours and beyond. But we're not really going to get any, concrete news for quite some time. I mean, it's going to be weeks until we hear the judge's ruling on this, whether that this hearing or this trial or case basically is dismissed, or that it's going to go forward and, it'll be months down the road until the next hearing and yada, yada, yada. So, regardless of getting into that specific topic right now, in terms of the chart, if you want to look at Pulse basically first there, yeah. What are you seeing here, Ewok? Because we were talking last week when prices were even below here that we had a lot of history at these levels. It was like at 4.5, I believe, at the time. We came down as low as 4.2, I believe, and now bounced back up towards about 50% off of SAC rate of 0001. So again, a lot of history here. So what are you seeing here with this bounce?
Yeah, no, it's looking strong as well. We did find a support level here where we had found support back in September. Also support here back in June. So it is it's a popular level. There was support here in December, and then some resistance back here in September, right about where we were at. So in this range, it bounced right off of there. So now it's finding support again. Hopefully this leg up, and I guess we'll have to wait to see if we can break through this 5.8 range. If it does that, then the next leg up could be anywhere between 7.8 and 8.5, 8.7, something like that, to where I'm seeing some more action in this zone. Could be the 0.5 range could also be a little more resistance again. This is half of the essentially half of the sacrifice price. But I think a lot of these mental levels is that's all they are. It's just mental numbers. It's like Hex was with a penny for the longest time, right? And sometimes getting through them is a little difficult. So we are literally right there, though, to break through half of the sacrifice price. I think it will. I think it will bust up again. And then, like I said, we're looking out for this 0.58, 0.59 number, or the 4 zeros, 5859 area. And hopefully we get through there and just set a new higher low, essentially, is what we're looking for, and a new higher high. So, yeah, it's looking good. Structurally, these things go in waves, so you can go the one. If you break it down into the different waves, you could call this 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Could easily go up. So they're usually in 5 stages. So hopefully, I think the 3 is usually the stronger of them, but this market is still fairly new. Don't forget, it's just over a year old. So there's not a whole lot of structure to look at. We're just looking at recent levels where there was activity. Now, hopefully a lot of that activity has been, we kept saying, wash them out, get rid of the people that had too much of it and didn't believe long term. So hopefully that has happened, and these future run-ups can go a little bit smoother than before, when there was a lot of people that were bag holders that had a lot to sell. So that's what I'm seeing. I think, volume isn't all that crazy. We definitely need some more activity to happen. But I think we're really close to that happening. Again, this 5859 level is super critical, I think.
I think so too. And you said something very interesting there. It's just like how quickly this can move. And I mean, we talk about this all the time. I mean, we saw it when it came off of the revisiting the previous bottoms. I mean, all those green candles right there in the chart, just looking whenever we were at the new all-time lows. Not that it was by that significant of a percentage, but when we were at those new lows, I mean, we just bulleted off of there for a few weeks. So, that's why, I mean, I always talk about it, but like the minute that I have any kind of fresh capital, any fresh fiat or anything, I'm not playing this bullshit game of like, well, I'm going to wait until next week because Bob Lucas said the cycle low might be then, or well, the moon and, the blood harvest, all that stuff. I'm just not going to wait for it. So I'm just basically aping anytime I can under sack rate, because they can, this stuff moves at breakneck speed, and I don't want to miss any of that. And if I do, okay, but I'm not going to. We're in a bull market now. That's the most important thing I think to think of, is like the trend overall is up. It's not 2022 anymore. I mean, I remember buying like an idiot back in 2022, not just, Hex, but other stuff. And it's just falling knife. It's like, because you're in that horrible trend. Everything is crashing and burning. People that go into jail, these, centralized bullshit things are, getting found out basically by the courts and stuff like that. You have all these horrible things crashing and burning. And now we're not in that trend anymore. We're totally in an uptrend. So, I mean, I'm not going to split hairs. Yeah, I saw that. Urban Productions, appreciate that. Well, that's why I did start putting BB anyway, on the display. So
we're getting him out of that broke boy status.
Yeah, I got to get it to scarcity mindset. I got to get out of that mindset. So yeah.
So you're telling me you don't rely on horoscopes and your tarot card readings to make your buys?
Believe it or not, I don't. No, it is tempting sometimes. And I am a Leo, so I don't know what that means, but
I don't either.
Yeah,
I don't either.
But yeah, I'm not really that into that. I know some people are. Jewish holidays, not discriminating against Jews. It's been out there. Other holidays, all kinds of different stuff. So I'm not really that into that. So yeah, I think that we could just move completely out of nowhere, and people need to recognize that. Were there any other? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna switch over to the Pulse X, the Pulse X price against Pulse, and see how we're looking there. I haven't looked at it yet, so this will definitely be this is moving up nicely too. I mean, there really hasn't been, other than your occasional pullbacks here. We're still looking rather strong with this one.
Yeah,
it looks good. Oh, looking good.
That's what I had to say. Okay. Yeah. It's still Pulse X is killing it, obviously, against Pulse still. I mean, what do you think is going to happen with when we get a next impulsive move? No pun intended. What do you think is going to look like the thing that flies out of the gate? Like it's usually been Pulse X, usually been Ink or something like that, but most recently it was really Hex actually when things started to pump. Which one do you think will pump the most whenever we start to get moving again here?
Well, I do think Hex will still run. I think
Mhm.
Hex is going to run pretty hard. It is getting more scarce. There's more people locking it up. There's more users, and there's a lot, just frankly, a lot less coins. Right? I mean, you don't have trillions of coins out there. Let's take a look and see. As far as where was that? Um, I don't remember. Here we go. Leagues. So the supply. Obviously you've got 16 trillion. Well, should we include? No, let's not include the OA. Let's not
No,
include that because they never sell anyway.
right.
Either way, you've got 16 trillion Pulse coins. You've got 20 trillion Pulse X coins. You only have 95 billion Hex, right? So I mean, um, I think it's probably going to run the hardest, and obviously because of the way the liquidity is tied to all three of these tokens, you could technically any of them could pump and it would relate to the other ones going up. But I think the strongest move will still be Hex early on, because again, like I said, supply is getting locked up. People are staked out. Obviously, there are some short-term big rolling stakes, but they have been known to just keep restaking. So not too concerned about them at this point. I do think Hex will run the hardest this cycle. So, obviously keep an eye out. These are all brand new. If we get to that state where, Axis's theory where Pulse X and Pulse hit parity, I don't know how long that stays there. I think because there are quite a few more of those tokens, it will probably get sold down pretty heavily. So at least people will be ratio trading back and forth to even things out a little bit. But yeah, that's my prediction. Hex will run the hardest out of these four.
I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, that's what we saw most recently. And it did pull back, I think, pretty substantially comparatively to the other ones when we pulled back here. So, yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. So, either way, again, things are going to move at a breakneck speed, and I don't want to be caught off guard. So, I'm just kind of aping in whenever I get the opportunity here. So, good
Hex
stuff.
chart is looking really good, too. I mean, by the way, I don't know if you've looked at it recently or not, but
not really.
It did have a run up. It had the pullback, and now we're set to prime to go again. What top was this? This was that was essentially the top back here was, almost 3 cents. Yeah. So, obviously I think we need to hit that 2 cent level first. We break right through that though. I don't see a whole lot holding us back from here to break this previous high on this chart here. But 3 cents should be our next target.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we ran hard up over 2 cents whenever it ran the last time. So just to show you how big of a pullback it's been. But yeah, I think once we get to 3 cents again, we probably smash through it. And just can't wait to see this stuff start to take off. So looking good. Looking good, faux show. Let's actually go into, I mean, something that we're already kind of alluding to is this motion to dismiss hearing tomorrow. So finally, the day is here. Originally, this SEC versus Richard Hart lawsuit was on October. The motion to dismiss hearing, anyway, was going to be a week from tomorrow, or last week on October the 24th. That got pushed forward, presumably by the SEC request for, maybe was it to throw off Hexicans that are willing to attend as they started to find out that hundreds upon hundreds were going to flood the courtroom? Maybe, probably. They're shaking in their boots, but that's not going to deter anybody. It looks like that we've seen at least 200 people RSVP to go there. Many people are going to be in the courtroom tomorrow and are already in New York City for this thing. So it takes place tomorrow at 2 p.m. Going to be very interesting. And again, it is just the motion to dismiss. We had to school Degen Moonboy on this a couple of weeks ago. He was asked, he was like, wait a minute, I thought this was like the start of the trial or whatever. No, this is the motion to dismiss hearing, which is good because it was obviously filed by Richard's attorneys to dismiss this because, the number one argument really has been the whole jurisdiction thing. Like, does the SEC even really have the jurisdiction to bring this lawsuit forward with the shaky grounds of like, well, Hex was bought on Uniswap, and at least one of the Uniswap developers lives in the Southern District of New York, as do they in Tacoma, Washington, and Austin, Texas, and all these other cities, but we're going to bring it here because it's our home court. So there is an argument there, and RH's attorneys are going hard after that. And then, of course, they go all over the place with the idea of like, the SEC is obviously suing what are just entities. They're not companies. They're not securities. It's not, it's just creations that are on the blockchain. It's not really anything that they can actually sue. It's code essentially. So there's a lot of different ways that Richard's attorneys can go at this. I've often wondered, with this thing starting so late in the afternoon at 2 p.m., I mean, if they're both just giving their oral arguments, I hope they can get it done in 2 or 3 hours because that's probably all they're going to have. But it's going to be interesting to see, obviously, the judge's decision. Now, what are we going to see over the next 24 hours? Really just cool stuff coming out from the Hexicans. Nuclear Herbs will be sharing plenty of stuff. He already has been. People will be meeting up, I'm sure, discussing how it went. I'm sure we're going to get a very colorful picture, maybe even some drawings. Well, let's get some courtroom drawings here. I would love to see that, of what's going on in the courtroom. But we're going to get plenty of details. And then, again, and you could speak to this, I know Ewok, is that Richard's attorneys, I think, are kind of holding court for some of the Hexicans that are going to be there. Talk to them about how they thought things went, maybe what their plans are a little bit going forward without getting into details they can't really share. But yeah, what are your overall thoughts about this? The fact that there's going to be major representation from the Hex community and stuff. Just going to be a very fun event, I think.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a great time. Obviously, no recording devices, no cell phones, nothing like that. Like you said, they take that from you. If you try to carry it in, they're going to, they're going to put it in a box until you come back out to. But so I don't know if we have a resident Hexican that is a sketch artist. That would be cool, though. If we had some drawings from the court. But I do know a lot of people are looking forward to it. I'm excited for the SEC to see how many people are coming. How many people are representing this thing that they say we've been fooled or manipulated in any way. I think it's fantastic that they get to go and support a cause. Would be cool if Richard was there. I highly doubt he will be, but still good to get to see the team at work. Now, again, I don't know how many lawyers will be present. He does have a team of what is it 11 or 13? I forget.
I think 11.
I think it's 11 as well. Don't know how many of them will be at this case. That would be interesting to see all 13 lawyers or 11 lawyers walk in the door and represent. That's kind of intimidating in itself too. So as for the show, or not the show, but the meeting afterwards, I'm not going. So I didn't get a whole lot of details on where it's going to be or what's going down. I think it was on the was it the Pulse Chain Tour? Pulse Chain Tour website. Look it up and see if you can see anything on there. I'm sure the tickets have probably been pulled down by now, maybe. But no, again, I think I think the jurisdiction is probably our strongest argument that they have. But they've got other ones exactly down the line, like you said. How can you sue code? How can you? Well, first of all, you can't stop it. So even if they were to sue it, there's no way to stop it unless you pull Ethereum offline somehow, which isn't going to happen. So again, there's that. There's the one I think is probably, I would say, the weakest, and it's not even the weakest, but I think they're going to gloss over it. Like, you can't call it that. Is the whole code is speech and we have freedom of speech. I don't. Something just tells me that they're going to be like, no, code is not speech. But we'll see how the judge interprets it. So, um, again, I think they've got the best argument with the jurisdiction, and
Yeah.
it just goes from there, and then they can, well, if that one doesn't fly, then I totally see if they say they do have jurisdiction, then everything else kind of gets held back for the actual trial, because if this doesn't go through, then the actual trial, the civil trial, will follow suit, so they can save all of that for then.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what our friend Johnny Chaos just said here. I mean, yeah, sue forks, sue wheels, whatever it is you want to do,
exactly.
ideas that exist. And Pandora's box has been open. The cat's out of the bag. There's just not much you can do anymore. And that's not just for Pulse Chain. I mean, that's for Bitcoin. That's for Ethereum. I mean, it's all the same, in terms of that. Now it's one thing if you're talking about these, corrupt entities that we did have the last cycle, like Celsius. I can't even remember them all anymore.
Luna.
Well, yeah, but I was more so thinking, definitely that. But I was thinking of the actual like platforms, like lending type platforms or whatever the hell they were, where they were basically all centralized. But it was like, oh yeah, you can stake your tokens on here. I just remember Celsius, Three Arrows Capital or something. A few other ones, yeah.
Well, they started to crack down on Coinbase for the staking. I'm pretty sure Luna was the other one though that you could stake on their platform. They turned out being fraudulent as well. Mm-hmm. And there are still several. I think they came down on Gemini's staking as well. So,
it's interesting because last cycle it seemed like there was the destruction of all these centralized entities that were, actual scams like Mashinsky and people like that. Yeah. This time around, it's like, oh, okay. So, you got some actual scammers like Sam Bankman-Fried and stuff like that, but now they're just continuing to sue anybody that there is to sue, even if it's actual crypto. So, I mean, if they lost to Ripple, they did. I mean, we have to remember that sometimes. Like they didn't just lose to, they didn't, settle their suit or anything like that with Ripple. They lost that lawsuit. Like they 100% lost it, written in stone. The judge said as much, denied the appeal. Like they lost it as much as you can possibly lose it. And that's against Ripple, who, I mean, they have CEOs, owners, and things like that literally do dump the tokens, So, I mean, if there's anything in crypto, if there's any token, I guess, that would be deemed a security, you would think it would be the XRP token, and it was not. So, I mean, there's just not much here. We will see, of course. It's all really up to the judge. I mean, we're probably going to hear something 60 to 90 days or so from now. So I'm going to just not count on it by the end of the year, but maybe we'll get a little surprise and we will hear something by Christmas or something. Who knows?
Would be nice. Would be, we'll have to see how this judge, how quickly she moves, right? If this is a clear cut and dry case, and they present a very good case that she's finding hard to argue what they're saying, it could be quicker. But again, we have to kind of wait and see how it plays out and how they argue it, how the SEC defends what their accusations are. Because with these guys, like I said, being top-notch lawyer team, they've been around. They've testified in front of Congress. They've done, many good things. So if they can present a very, very strong argument to the original case of jurisdiction, it could be pretty simple. But I do agree with you. Being optimistic, saying that we'll get some sort of decision by the end of the year. That's wishful thinking, I think.
Yeah, it could be. I did post in the chat straight from the Pulse Chain Tour website their actual RSVP link to the event. Right now, it has over 253 names or 256 or so awesome. Have RSVP'd. Yeah, so that's how many we have RSVP'd at this right now. Man, going to be really interesting to see what does transpire over the next day here. Yeah, Voyager, that was another one. BlockFi, yeah, Johnny, a lot of crap. So yeah, it's going to be fantastic just to see how this transpires. So if I were to give a prediction, like I hate to say it, but just because percentages usually fall in its favor, I'm going to say that we don't get an announcement from her for a little while, but she denies the motion to dismiss just because it's so hard to actually get those dismissed. But I mean, if it gets dismissed, I mean, it's going to be bullish beyond belief. I mean, because these things just don't happen. Like Nuclear Herbs quoting him. I mean, he said that typically in most core civil cases like this, 10% chance you have for a motion to dismiss to get granted. He believes in this one because of how, flippant the lawsuit is, that they have more like a 30% chance. But it could still happen. But just imagine, I mean, what would you, I know we've had this discussion many times. I think you were just going to go there, but should we get, say December 15th, we hear, yes, it's been dismissed. They're not going to hear this any further and it's just been dismissed. And if the SEC wants to come again later, they can do that. But what do you think happens with
I stick by my original prediction. I think what I say 10x, the price.
Yeah, within like a couple days.
No. I said within a month.
No, you said a couple days, I think.
No. I remember what I said. 10x within a month. I think you could see some crazy if it gets dismissed. I think within a month you see a 10x on a few of them, maybe not all of them. I think Hex definitely. You would see that 10x price, and that would go from 2 pennies to 20 cents. I mean, it's really not that unheard of. We've been there before. So
true.
I could see very, very bullish things come out of that. What say you?
I mean, now that you're kind of couching it with, a month and not all the ecosystem, I didn't really mean that. I mean, you're kind of walking a few things back.
No. So, come on, man.
I mean, a dismissal is way different than just a victory. You know what I mean? Like a victory after trial and stuff like that would be one. The other thing is, like, they're totally different time frames. Like, we're talking about if this were dismissed, we're knowing it by end of January, probably. Like that's the time frame. So it'll still be before everything is taken off like hardcore, but we'll still be probably more bullish than we are right now. So yeah, I mean, I guess I've always been thinking of it in a short term. Like if it gets dismissed over the next couple of days, I think we definitely 2x like immediately, like maybe like in hours, literally. I think that would happen. As far as a 10x in a month, maybe. I mean, the time frame is just. It's hard to nail down the time frame, now that you're, not saying that you meant instantly anymore whenever before you did, but,
I don't know about that.
But it would certainly be unbelievably bullish. Yeah. And the cooler thing is not only would it be bullish, but it would be coinciding with like a time frame where things are, ready to go up anyway. So yeah. Kind of a double whammy there, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
So
it'd be crazy if this was all kind of planned, right? People say that a lot of times you hear how calculating, RH is and things like that. And it would be crazy to think that he even, I don't think you could plan for this time frame at all. But
I definitely don't think that. But I have always said this, and I maintain it because he's just way too smart of a guy, and the stuff he did just seemed too purposeful and intentful otherwise. I do actually think that he was trying to tempt the SEC the last couple of years, but maybe not just like, I mean, obviously you don't want to like catch a lawsuit if you don't need to have one or whatever, but maybe he just felt it was an inevitability and he knew, had the confidence and, I mean, why was he being as flashy as he was? I mean, I think that was part of it kind of. So anyway.
Yeah. And I totally agree with Hexco here. He would live stream, I would say pretty much right away. I'm pretty certain the reason he hasn't been is because he's been advised not to. But if it gets dismissed, that goes out the window and he's free to do what he wants. So I think we get a very fast live stream from him. How bullish is that?
Agree. Oh my God.
If you see those words,
I can't even imagine.
Live stream in 10 minutes, question mark? Like how many retweets would that get? It'd be crazy.
Yeah. I cannot even imagine, man. And that's why we've been saying for so long. I mean, not that we know or think even necessarily that this is going to get dismissed, but just be prepared for 2025 to be extremely different from how the last 3 years have been. Like not only in price action and stuff like that, but just narratives completely changing, things coming back that you thought were dead, Richard live streaming again and things like that. Like things are going to change big time. Yeah, it's going to look totally, totally different.
Oh, yeah.
And you can kind of see that just gradually. I mean, 2022, was a horrible crash. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. 2023 was like not much better, but at least we were kind of accumulating, but nothing good was happening. 2024 markedly within crypto has been good. Of course, there's still been drama. Not a lot of people are getting, rich or anything yet or anything, but things are getting better. And 2025, it's going to be vastly different. So
yeah, 2024 has been a very sideways year. I mean, and that's, that is your accumulation phase. That's what it's designed to do as part of that cycle. Is the year before the pump year is when you should be buying and DCAing. I don't know if you caught Johnny's post the other day, comparing and asking people what the average buy-in price. It was a very interesting thought experiment. And I'm going to try and remember what it said off the top of my head. But so if you bought $1,000 of a token that was at $1, or no, it was at $1,000 of a token that was at $1, and then it dropped 99%, which put it back to a penny, and then you spent another 1,000 at that penny. What would your break-even price be? And so many people answered 50 cents because
the middle.
But in reality, at 2 cents, you've already doubled your 1,000, and you have 20 cents times the original 1,000 tokens. So you've technically made $20 at just from 1 cent to 2 cent. And I feel like so many people get that wrong, right? The power of buying when things go down. And that's what we're saying about the year of 2024 and how important it was to DCA. It doesn't matter if you caught actual really tops and bottoms. The truth is nobody's going to buy that perfect, the buy at $1 and then they buy more at the exact bottom. It just doesn't usually happen that way.
Right.
But it's the power of numbers and how effectively you can regain your position from just 1 cent to 2 cent. You're back in profit, technically back in profit. So, that's what this last year has been all about. And it's kind of what we've been preaching. So, I feel like a lot of our viewers have been listening and doing just that. We've got a pretty smart audience, I think. So,
it's incredibly powerful to buy at the lows. Yeah. I mean, you're exponentially decreasing, I guess you'd say, your cost basis, and just getting it at so much better prices. I'm not sure exactly what you mean, sir, but should we keep DCAing if we don't get a pump right away? I mean, the whole reason I'm DCAing is because it isn't pumping. So, mean,
and I think go ahead. Go ahead. But
I mean, basically what I was just going to say, me personally, I know Ewok agrees, as long as we are below sacrifice rate, which would be 0001 for Pulse, and honestly, probably even beyond there, I would still be buying. But below there, I don't know when the last time I had fiat sitting in a bank was, that I planned on keeping there for 2% APY. I mean, I'm basically just immediately buying. But anyway, go ahead.
What I was saying is if you believe in this long term, I think DCAing at these prices, again, it doesn't matter. You're not going to hit exact bottoms. We've probably already passed that stage. However, what you have to think about is, will these prices in a future cycle come back to these levels? And usually they don't. Even the very bottom of Hex, I mean, we're down a ways. Yes, we're down 99%. However, we're still up 100x from the bottom. So we never got back to those levels. So I think, DCAing in at some of these levels on a brand new chain, that it may not come back to. I mean, it could, but do you want to take that chance and wait for another 4 years? Or would you rather capture some of the gains, so that when it does pull back, you may have some extra to keep DCAing at that point, right? So
I just did some quick math to put it in perspective a little bit, to based off what you just said about will we get back to these prices again? Usually not at another bear market. looking at this as conservatively as I think that any of us can be right now. And for me, this is conservative. And for Ewok, he probably thinks it's embarrassingly conservative. But if you figure that we're only going to get a 25x from here, like for this ecosystem, or from Pulse, we'll just say right now. Pulse is at, we'll just say 4 zeros and a 5 right now. That puts it at 00125. That would be the top of the bull market for this cycle. That would be the price to put it at the top. If we had, and I was aggressive, a 95% drop on Pulse, which may not even happen. That may be too aggressive. I don't know. But if it is, that's actually still higher than where we're at right now, even. Not by much. It's 4 zeros and a 6.2. But yeah, 25x from today with a 95% drop is still higher than where we're at right now. So just to kind of put that into perspective, and again, many people think we're going beyond 25x. Many people, and then hey, what if we only drop 90% or something? So just to put it in perspective, I mean, these are prices that I don't think we're ever really going to see again, and not for much longer. So I'm with you.
Well, I think the amount of tokens that are still out there, we will see a 95 to 98% correction, very similar to Hex, what Hex did its first cycle. A lot of people are big bag holders. There's a lot of whales out there that have big chunks, and they will be taking off the top. They will be, creating a cascade effect, essentially. And I do believe we will see a pretty sizable pullback after this cycle.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's good to plan for, obviously. Yeah, I would plan for the worst, hope for the best, obviously. So, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps us up. And we started really talking about the RH hearing tomorrow. So it's going to be a very entertaining 24 hours. So appreciate having all of you guys along for the ride for that. If you are enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor, hit the like to support Real DeFi. Last I checked, we got like 75 people watching and only 39 likes, dude. We need to double that. So do that. Do us a favor there and like the video. We appreciate you guys doing so. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's check out this election. So we are now 6 days away. Trump v. Harris. And things have been getting very bullish for Trump here in the last few weeks. I mean, I think Kamala had her little bull market there whenever she was first announced the candidate and before she really got to talking in earnest and stuff like that. Now that she has, and now that Trump has kind of hit a little bit of a stride with going on all these different podcasts and stuff, some people think that's great. Some people don't like it, whatever. I think it's more so Kamala hurting herself with the interviews than she's doing, more than maybe Trump is making all these amazing moves. I think it's really just her speaking more, honestly, that's maybe flipping things around. But we are 6 days out. Next Tuesday is the big day. Looking at our poll, 89% of people think that Trump is going to win at this point. I would tend to agree. And again, it's basically just because I think in the summer, I really started to feel strongly about him winning this. And this was when Biden, I believe, was still around. Not that he's, gone yet or anything. But, whenever he had his the assassination attempt back in July, that was obviously the first time when it's like, man, I mean, regardless of what you think, like people are going to rally around him, just some of the iconic photos and stuff that came out of that and everything. And then, of course, Democrats swap out the candidate. Kamala has her little bull market of, being announced the candidate and doing all these different things. Actually, not really doing all these different things. She wasn't really doing interviews or anything. And again, like I said, she started to, and things started to swing the other way. And I had some doubts during that period, but now I feel like the pendulum is swinging back. I do overall think that many people in the country who were totally turned off to Trump in 2016, maybe even 2020 as well, are now becoming more open to it for many reasons. Number one, that the Democrats continue to just trot out absolutely horrible candidates instead of letting people, whether you agreed with Bernie Sanders' politics or thought he was a lunatic, he should have been the candidate in 2016. I mean, he was who people actually wanted it, and they installed Hillary Clinton. So you know how that goes. And they've continued that pattern basically of like, who do we think get elected over who would actually get elected? And now you've got Trump pulling from the Democrats. Obviously, Tulsi Gabbard has been disenfranchised, really, or interested in being a Democrat for some time. she's basically full-blown Republican now. She's been awesome. I've supported pretty much everything that she's done. RFK, of course, eventually coming over, who had a huge base behind him. A lot of people are pissed off about that. They really liked RFK and feel kind of politically homeless at this point, I think. I just think all those factors, though, people like that coming over to Trump, I don't know if Trump doing Rogan is kind of more of just a redundant thing maybe for him, because a lot of that viewership may have already been voting for him. But I feel like the pendulum is swinging back to Trump's way. And who knows what actually happens on election night in these cities. But what do you feel about it right now, Ewok?
Well, I feel the same way. I think that the team that he's put around himself, of people and what, especially RFK, I think he's a big one. People don't understand the levels and the insanity and the garbage that's in our food.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, to the extent of, these companies make food for America and then they have to make it differently for when they export it to other countries, because they're not allowed to put half the stuff in it, because it's poison, it's garbage. So I think that's huge. I think the Rogan podcast was, I think it was beneficial. I do, because he sat there for 3 hours and got to just kind of speak. I found it interesting. What did he call it? He was weaving his stories. Is that what he
even admitted to it? It was funny. They joked about that like numerous times. Yeah. And Trump like copped to it. And well, I found that interesting.
Yeah. He said what he was doing. And I found it interesting how he just kind of wove the stories. And then he finally did get back to a couple of things. The one he didn't really get back to was, what was that first day like? Not knowing what the hell you're doing.
Right.
And showing up at the White House and having to appoint, what was it, 10,000 people or whatever crazy number of appointments that he had to make. I thought it was good. And I do wish that Kamala would have done it. She started setting stipulations where he had to go to her,
right?
Could only do it for an hour. And there was just, some weird things that were thrown in there. And I don't think it would have been as genuine of a conversation being rushed like that. So I did feel that it was a genuine conversation. You got to hear him. And the one thing that I found interesting was when he was talking about the Lincoln bedroom and how cool it was that, and he knew that the son's name, you know what I mean? How many people take care? It's just, he cares, right? I think you got to see a little bit more of a genuine side of him where, not that people that have already made their mind up are going to change their mind at this point. But I thought it was good for people who may have been like, well, I'm not really a fan of this side. I think I'm going to go with this side because we know what we're getting, at least. Even if I don't like the mean tweets or whatever part goes with it, we at least know what we're going to get. And I think you got to see a more genuine side than the traditional
politician
questions, political questions, and the slamming. I don't think he really slammed the other side a whole lot in that conversation. There were a few comments here and there where he got some digs in, but
he mainly talked about people that he had to work with that were called idiots numerous times. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And now we know why they've come out speaking badly about him, is because he didn't like them and he didn't like their policies. And he probably found out that half of them were crooked, and doing things for the wrong reasons. So, it's funny how they throw and twist these things about all these people that used to work for him that have bad things to say. Well, most of them are the ones that he fired, and for good reason, because he caught them doing shady shit. So, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good interview, a good conversation more than anything. And I do still worry. I think the majority of people have are voting on Trump's side. But as you can clearly see now, there's reports of many people voting that shouldn't be. Reports of hundreds of ballots coming in from the same address. And then you look up this address and it's a social center or something like that. Just I think they're probably going to try to get as many cheats in there as they can, and because they know they're losing.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that's going to happen. There's no preventing it, really. But I do think what I'm wondering is if he may build so much of a lead where it's so far out of grasp that there's not really that ground to make up. Kind of like in 2016, like what really could you have done? Yeah, in terms of his interview, yeah. I mean, you said like about him caring and a lot of the things he was observant of and has knowledge of and is aware of and stuff like that. The thing about him is even if he doesn't care, like, many politicians like don't really give a shit about certain stuff and just have to like, pretend to or whatever. He at least does his homework on everything. Like, I mean, you can tell that he's been there. You can tell he knows who the major players are and is educated in all these different angles of things, and you could tell that he's experienced it and been there and stuff like that. And he doesn't pull punches. And I do think it was definitely to his benefit. Something that's interesting to me, I heard some pundits talking about the other day, not like legacy media ones, but a podcast I listen to occasionally, Crystal and Sauger, that those two guys used to be on Rogan quite a bit too. They're kind of independent-ish, but they were talking the other day just saying like whether or not the whole like podcast circuit idea, which it isn't just Trump. I mean, she is doing it too. She either was already or is going to be on that. I think she was on with Shannon Sharp, whose podcast is apparently pretty big now. But Crystal on there was talking about her thinking that this isn't a good road to go down necessarily, that you just like do a podcast for 3 hours with somebody that you maybe largely agree with instead of being challenged. I'm honestly in favor of it because, especially with a guy like Rogan, I mean, Rogan obviously is going to agree a little bit more with Trump at this point. I mean, Rogan has spent the better part of 4 to 6 years at this point shitting on what extreme leftoids have been doing, not meaning that he's never even voted for Trump. I mean, he has said, who he's voted for the last couple elections. I think it was Gary Johnson and Joe Jorgensen. So while Rogan maybe didn't give Trump all these hard-hitting things, he did circle him back to answer his original questions here and there. And Rogan isn't going to do that. Rogan, and he wouldn't, honestly, I really don't think he would have done it with Kamala either. And I know we don't have the benefit of knowing that, but like what you just said is exactly right. Here's the thing that I don't understand about the Kamala thing. Like, Rogan is the entity here. Like, he is the one that has the biggest platform and podcast in the world. He said that, I was just listening to his pod that came out today with those two British comedians. He was saying that her campaign reached out to him. They reached out to him first. He was like, absolutely, yeah, I'd love to have a conversation. You can come down, we'll go for however long you want to or whatever. And like you said, they wanted to demand that he travel to them, which he does not do. He doesn't do that for anyone. That is not his show. He doesn't travel around podcasting with people, and that he wants it to be an organic conversation. And like you said, they were going to make it an hour long, and you know exactly what was going to happen. Like, he'd have had to go to like New York or California or something like that. There would have been all these people there, like waving off certain questions and shit. That's not what the show is about. So, I mean, you're showing right there that you're not interested in doing it the right way. So, yeah, I mean, as far as I see it, she did refuse to do the show because that's not the show. Like, and whatever, I don't think it's necessarily going to cost her. But just the other day, she was caught on a hot mic at this bar with that Whitmer woman from Michigan. And she was specifically saying that, like, well, like, shocker. Well, we're not doing very well with men. Well, like, wow, do you believe that? But you don't go on Rogan. So I don't think Rogan would have embarrassed her. Like many things that have been going on with her, I think she would have wildly embarrassed herself, if anything, because she's just, and Rogan has even said it, and I think he's 100% right. Like, she's in a tough position. I don't want to say this because I have empathy for her, but she's in a tough position. You've been thrown into here. You basically, orchestrated a coup over Joe Biden, and now you're just like thrown into the fire, and here you are. And she's not cut out for it, and she's not equipped to do it, and they should have a better candidate in there. And she's just doing what she can do. But
Yep. No, I agree. I don't think she's the right person, but apparently they had to come up with somebody, and I think they were very cornered into who they could actually pick.
mhm.
So this is what we got. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really feels like it's swinging in Trump's direction. But again, like we said, I mean, anything can happen on election night. It's definitely going to be appointment viewing. I can't wait to watch the events roll in. But it's going to be interesting. But more importantly, from a crypto perspective, and this is something that I've been saying the last few weeks, people just need to remember, as much as Trump being elected would pretty much objectively be better for this industry, which is good because, not only are we just invested in cryptocurrency, but the whole point of cryptocurrency is self sovereignty, holding things other than US dollars, which are permanently being devalued every single day. Or even if Trump gets elected, I mean, they're still going to be printing money. And holding cryptocurrency is something that you do purposely to check out of that financial system. So what you want to do is remember that, like, even if he doesn't get elected, this stuff isn't going away. And there's nothing that she's going to be able to do short or long term to stifle that. I know that Democrats, and namely the SEC, have been trying to stifle innovation to, continue to line their own pockets now for years. But I do think the veil is dropping on that. We have Democrats hating Gary Gensler at this point. I think even maybe Kamala or people within her group themselves have been shitting on Gensler here and there. So, the tide is probably turning on that. So if Trump somehow does not win, I mean, our bags are pumping. I'm not going to worry too much about that. So
Yeah, I don't know. Did you see the other day they discovered that like $41 billion of the climate change fund had gone missing? Basically, it was 40% of all their spending over the last 7 years is untraceable. Yeah. I thought that was very interesting and interesting timing that $41 billion has just gone missing.
Yeah.
Or unaccounted for. It's probably not missing. They probably spent it. It's just,
Right.
They don't know where it got spent.
Yeah. Well, if we had this stuff on the blockchain, we might be able to figure out what happened here. But
Well, if we
something tells me
had
that one of
voting
that
on the
money disappeared.
blockchain, if we had money or voting on the blockchain, then that would solve a lot of issues too. I think we would know right away who won instead of having to wait 3 or 4 days.
Someday, maybe election of 2036 or something like that. We'll plan on that. We'll see. All right, so that's where we're at. Yeah, I do think we're going to get a Trump victory, but we shall see. I thought we were going to last time too, and they pulled something out of their ass. So we will see what happens here. So, I don't want to hit too much more things. I'm going to skip over this FOMC crap because we'll be able to talk about it probably next week with actual data coming in. Let's cover real quick that cross-chain swapping that we just found out about. So big news from Internet Money Wallet earlier today with multiple ways of doing cross-chain swaps. This is pretty big news, and you just brought it up, and I did see it earlier today, but you brought it up to me right before we went on the air. So why don't you go over this tweet if you like, because this is really good for getting into the ecosystem and swapping. I mean, cross-chain stuff, I mean, that's one of the big things that does kind of keep people scared of or out of crypto because it seems difficult or scary to do. So why don't you go over this tweet here for us, Ewok?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty basic tweet here. It just says major announcement. Cross-chain swapping is now live in the Internet Money Wallet on Android, iOS, and Chrome. You can now swap between 27 different chains right from within your app. Simple, fast. Update your app to version 1.30.3. I think they were going to do a live show just a little while ago. So if you want more information on it, brother KG, he probably has it on his channel. Internet Money has their own channel. Go back and rewatch that. But yeah, having another cross-chain swap, or the ability to swap between all these crazy chains, super easy. You don't have to use the bridge. Eventually we think when Ethereum does take off, these prices could get crazy. This could be a good solution to mitigate some of the bridge fees, Ethereum transactional fees, things like that. So, you send it from a blockchain that is fairly cheap to transact straight into Pulse Chain. Yeah, that's awesome news. It doesn't get much better. So pretty cool. You're muted.
We need more things like that to get I said this so eloquently when I was on mute, but we need more things like this to give us less steps to get into an ecosystem, less steps to transact in these things, because as we onboard more and more people, not just in a Pulse chain but just crypto in general, you want to have less clicks to actually get there. Now, the downside of some of that is sometimes less clicks and more convenience also means less security, of course. So you want to take those proper measures as well. But something like this obviously is terrific. I mean, to be able to cross chain is a huge thing, because, if you have something on Solana and you're starting to hear about Pulse Chain and you want to just get directly over to it instead of getting out of your Phantom wallet in Solana and then sending it back into sending it over to a MetaMask, or bridging back to Ethereum and then getting to Pulse. There's just so many different things that you have to do, and it can confuse somebody, and that's what's going to happen. We're going to have tons of people right now that have been playing around in ETH or Solana over the course of this market so far, just doing the pump fund stuff, or aping into Solana meme coins and stuff like that. And all of a sudden in 2025, Pulse Chain season is going to happen, or not even just Pulse Chain, but maybe, another blockchain, but especially Pulse Chain, something's going to take off, and people are going to want to rush in and have no idea what to do, aren't experienced with bridges or anything like that. So things like this, I think, are going to become increasingly more valuable. So
agree. Yeah, no, this is exciting. And again, use it your own risk, as with anything. I don't know the security. I don't know the audits that have happened. I'm assuming these guys have always been fine, upstanding young men and done the right thing.
We know KG is. We met with KG. Yeah, very upstanding.
So he's a good dude. But again, I don't know what kind of audits they've had or anything like that. So as with anything new, use at your own risk. But the more of these things that come out, obviously, the more battle tested that they become, the bugs get worked out, things like that. So it's exciting. And again, the more of these we have, the easier it is to get into the ecosystem, the more things can just pump like crazy. When, like you said, other chains have different times where they pump. They could take profits and transfer them into other things very easily. So yeah, it's really exciting. And I think I reposted and said the builders keep on building. So
for sure. And that's one thing we have not been lacking, with Pulse Chain. I mean, constant stuff built on top of this. That whole idea that Richard created of here's the chain, you guys do what you want to do. And I mean, we have just seen people go to town on that, whether it is stuff like this for utility, just for getting people to the chain, whether it is just meme coins and stuff like that, other DEX aggregators built on it, so many things, the stuff that Alex McWhirter is doing behind the scenes with Icosa and Hedron and everything. I mean, there's just so much happening, and all without him being forward facing on camera this time around and stuff. People are just taking the reins. So anyway.
So NJ Dub says there is no smart contracts or audit. It's front end for Change Now, which is basically, we've talked about Change Now before, but basically a centralized exchange that you can do straight from credit card, things like that. So if that's true, then Change Now has definitely been a safe way to transact. But again, I haven't looked into it. I'm not exactly sure, but if that's the case, then
just know that. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, good stuff from Brother KG and Internet Money. Do you want to go with the scribd or scribed thing right now, or because I want to push Murad to another week, because we can do that anytime. And I did want to talk about the Icosa thing kind of, because it just happened last week. But if you want to go to this, we might only have time for one more topic. So if you want to go do the RH scribed thing, go ahead. I think it's scribed. I think it's got to be scribed probably, but I don't know.
Probably scribed. I'll share the post. I mean, there isn't a whole lot we can say. It's more speculation type things. But do you want me just to go ahead and jump in here?
Go ahead. Yeah, more.
So in 2018, There's a website called, I think you might be right, it's Scribed, where Richard Hart started to upload some documents. Some of them being about trusts, placing things into trusts, some laws, some frameworks. Let's take a look here and see the website. I think they link it. Don't they link it? Yeah, here it is. Okay, can you see what I'm sharing?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So this website shows all the uploads that he has placed in there. And I don't know where or why it doesn't say. Yeah, added by Richard Hart. Here we go. One of the cool things is about how he was talking about trusts and adding things into a trust for protection. Now, we talked about this some time ago with when Mountain Crypto Advisors was involved with, onboarding some of the hexagons and putting things into a trust. Basically, it gets it out of your name directly and into a trust, which becomes a little more bulletproof when someone tries to attack it, sue it, do anything like that. This is frankly quite important now. If any of these cryptos, the OA maybe, were placed into a trust, because as the SEC decides to go after Richard as an entity, if these things are in a protected trust, and then I don't know that there's a whole lot that can be done about it. As far as settlements go, anything like that. So it was quite interesting when this whole story came out about that. And here, I'm going to read through Jesse's tweet. It says, "What do you think Richard Hart wanted us to know when he uploaded these documents to Scribd in 2018? Do you think he placed all of his assets into an irrevocable common law trust? If so, this changes everything for Hex, Pulse, PulseX, and the world's largest diamond. This means that the founder and owner of the IP and assets is the trust and not Richard Hart. It means that he's virtually untouchable. And it changes everything surrounding the SEC lawsuit. The SEC might be completely screwed if Richard moved all of these assets before the lawsuit began. When RH says we don't know who owns the OA, he might be saying this is a private business and the records are sealed in a trust. A private, irrevocable trust that's been properly designed is exactly that. Private and cannot be pierced, not even by the SEC nor the Supreme Court." So just found it interesting. We came across this, several weeks ago. I think this was posted back in early October. And yeah, it makes a very interesting defense and quite bulletproof, if you ask me. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is awesome, and it's another example of him just like thinking way, way, way ahead, to square things off, and that's his big thing. I mean, like if anybody that's followed him over the years, how important privacy, security, and all these things are to him. I mean, I think they're basically paramount beyond anything else. So to get that infrastructure worked out makes sense.
Now, we don't know that this is Richard Hart. He
Right.
is the Richard Hart, but we're assuming so. A lot of this stuff makes sense, with the things that he's spoken about. And, he is a very intelligent dude. This would just be another feather in the cap for his 5D chess moves. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely good to see it. Interesting that who tweeted that out? Jesse? Just ask Jesse.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to put that out there. Not something you would see every day, I think, on the Twitter sphere regarding our age. So definitely appreciate that. So cool.
Well, it's Jay-Z. It's a different Jay-Z. It's Christy
okay.
CZ's husband, Jesse. He just goes by Jay-Z.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. All right. But yeah, good stuff for sure there. Let's see here. I just saw this in the chat because I just saw something about this on Twitter. Liberty or death. I'm garbage. Trump's a garbage man today. He's hilarious. We're so blessed to finally have someone like him in politics. I pray to God the Dems don't steal this. There's no way. I literally just saw on Twitter Vivek Ramaswamy is out working a garbage man shift today because of this stuff. Yeah, there's video of it actually. So yeah, here it is. I just saw it. So we got Trump and Mickey D's and Vivek taking out garbage now. So yeah,
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that whole comedian thing? Like, was it
Tony Hinchcliffe?
Yeah, I don't know much about him. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen him or anything other than this.
I do know him. I have actually seen him live in person open for Rogan. And he's much funnier than Rogan, in my opinion. I do think he's been like a little full of himself, like personally lately, just from like stuff that I've seen, just clips on the internet and everything. But I've always thought he was pretty funny. The conundrum here is like, and I've heard stand-up comedians say this since the beginning of time. Why do you take gigs that are not actually meant for stand-up? Like that was a rally. Like usually stand-up is not going to go over well at something like that. So,
no.
I mean, obviously, I don't think any joke that he said was offensive. I wouldn't think any joke anybody would say is offensive because they're jokes and I don't really give a shit. But in that kind of atmosphere, that's not really what people are there for. They're obviously jokes. And of course, the left is going to hear it and then put it in print as if it's like, this is a statement that he made about Puerto Rico and this is what he believes. And it was a joke. But to me, I understand wanting to have personalities there. And, obviously, Republicans have had like awesome personalities and stuff at a lot of these events, and like Hulk Hogan I saw was there again the other night and all that stuff. But having Tony Hinchcliffe, who specifically is also a comedian who is like a king of what do you call it? Like where you directly shit on people. I don't know why I can't think of the term right now. Well, yeah, but I mean, like, actually, like, they have events around it. Why can I not think what I'm trying to say? He did it, roasts. Like, he did the roast of Tom Brady this year on Netflix and stuff like that. Like, he's specifically for roasting people. Like, he says horrible shit about people. So he was, like, arguably one of the worst choices if you were going to do that, if you didn't want him to say something that's going to be offensive. So, I just think it was a weird setting. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be offended by any of it, but, sure. It's just not a comedic setting, really, to be telling jokes like that. But it is what it is. I mean, yeah, I think you'd be wise to just not have stand-up comics probably at your events like that. That's all. But it is what it is.
Liberty said, if you watch the full speech, Tony had already said 5 Puerto Rico jokes. The crowd was laughing. Everyone knew he wasn't serious and it was a joke. I believe that completely. They're grasping at straws right now. I think they're trying to get, any little clip to tie it back to Trump to put him down, to say he's talking bad about you or he's in favor of this type of speech, which we know isn't true. I saw a statistic earlier today on how far leaning search engines are. And it was crazy how, I mean, we all know, when you try to Google the Rogan Trump podcast, it didn't even come up. Like YouTube, for a lot of people on YouTube, it didn't even come up. But how swayed, the search engines are to leaning left very, 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 very heavily on all these different topics. And, it's one of the Democrats' things that you should probably do some research on that. Well, the problem is when you do your research, this is what you're getting. You're getting all these search engines that are leaning left to give you the opinion that you want to hear, and they're not factual. So it is good to see that some of these news businesses are losing viewers left and right. I can't wait till it becomes a more independent thing, where there isn't a side, where there isn't somebody telling them exactly what they need to say and what side they need to slant to. Because that's what journalism's all about, right? A lot of this stuff is, just reporting the facts and letting people make up their own mind. And we've gotten so far away from that in this country that it's gotten pretty sad. Muted again.
I'm with you. One thing I wouldn't have done, from the Republican side of that. Like, obviously, Dems are going to take that Puerto Rican thing and run with it. But I think the Trump campaign, like, I don't know if they apologize for it, but like, those aren't the views that we have because they need all these Puerto Rican votes. I wouldn't have apologized. I'd have just been like, no, he's a stand-up comedian. Maybe it wasn't the best choice, but we don't obviously have those beliefs. They're jokes. So if you can't take
I know Puerto Rico's a territory, but do they? I don't know this answer. Do they vote just like we do?
I don't believe so. What they're talking about is Puerto Ricans within the mainland. That's what they were more so talking about, like getting that vote, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. I couldn't be less interested in this topic, honestly. So it's just
curious. I didn't know if you knew.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that, like, I just wouldn't have a stand-up comedian at your events like that. That's all.
Yeah.
Especially if he's good. I don't blame him. He just went up and did the stuff that he's going to do. He's a stand-up comic. Those are the kind of jokes that he tells. That's what he did. But if they don't want that stuff being said, then I would vet the comedian a little bit better or not have him there. It's not necessary to have him. So.
Yep.
Anywho, I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. This is going to be an extremely entertaining couple of weeks. We are 6 days away from the election. Tomorrow is the big motion to dismiss hearing. We're going to have plenty of stuff pouring in about that. I know you agree with me on this, Ewok. I just really want to thank the viewers here tonight. You guys have been awesome. We had a great chat last week as well. And I mean, you can just feel it. I mean, you can feel things really picking up within this ecosystem, picking up obviously within crypto as a whole. And our chats these last couple of weeks have been exemplary. I mean, people you can tell are getting really, really excited right now.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, you can see it in the chat. And by the time we stream next week, we still may not have a winner. I was just thinking about that.
You're probably right.
We still may not know who won. So I have a feeling we won't know until later in the week.
I would say I'm probably 80% sure we won't have a winner by this time next week. Yeah. Only one day. I mean, that's just the routine now. The last couple of 2016, we knew that night, but I mean, it's probably going to be days. I think what was 2020 until the following weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's crazy.
I'm totally prepared for that to happen again. So, and if it doesn't happen, I think it means that Trump crushed it and there's just no, hiding it. I don't think it would be the other way around. So, yeah.
Take too many false votes to cheat.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, appreciate all you guys being here. Once again, Liberty or Death, Beyond All, Checks My Pulse, Hex Girl, Valiant Low Key, Dejin Moonboy, of course, earlier, Mr. Chinks, DeFi Gardner was here live. I missed that. Sorry, man. Hey, thanks for being here. I know we've had some jabs back and forth in the YouTube comments before. But yeah, really appreciate all of you guys. We will be here next week reacting to whatever the hell is going on with this crazy election, as well as the RH case tomorrow. We'll be here next week talking about all of it and a whole lot more. So if you're still DCing in the pulse, which I am, we may not have all that much longer. So get out there and do what you need to do. But we'll catch you guys next week right here on the Creative Crypto live stream. See you guys.
Peace out.